I'm Shaira, I'm from the Bronx, and identify as Dominican or Afro-Latina.
What does the term Afro-Latina mean to you?
So to me, it's just the acknowledgement of like the complex history of the place I'm from. I usually just call it like Quisqueya because it acknowledges Haiti and Dominican Republic were once, one country, but obviously white supremacy has like separated the two, and just a whole bunch of other things have gone on in the last couple hundred years in between those two countries. But yeah, to me, it's just like an acknowledgement of the history of the complex identities that we all have, acknowledging the histories of blackness. So like whether it was the transatlantic slave trade or just like forced immigration any other way, just combined with like colonization, so the Spaniards, and then indigenous people. It's just like acknowledging all of that mixed together. It makes us who we are. Well, I actually had to figure it out thanks to like Tumblr and just like access to the internet and books and asking questions, I think was kind of it. In college, I did a lot of like organizing, but I never felt like I fit into like the specific like American blackness, because like we're all part of this diaspora, right? But folks from the Caribbean have like a very different sort of culture and like relationship to blackness versus like African Americans have a complex relationship to blackness versus like folks from the countries in Africa have like their own relationships to blackness, even though we're all interconnected. But like we have to like acknowledge all the different things that makes us connected and also different. So I took a lot of like Black Studies classes, and I realized, wait, like I can connect this back home because like a lot of this is really familiar to me. And then I started following someone named Zahira Kelly, who like pretty much started talking about like Afro-Latinidad and what that meant to her. And she's also Dominican, so like a lot of the things that she was saying and putting out there I had never heard before. I come from a family that is like Black and then also white. And there's like some really complex relationships that they have with each other based on that. So there was a lot of colorism, lots of like denial of blackness. So I never got to like connect with that until I started, following this person, learning more about like our shared history. And then I started doing some soul searching and asking my other relatives, like, what's your like experience been as like a Black person in DR versus a Black person in New York or Florida or wherever they're living at. So yeah, it's taken some time to like really settle in with the identity and also challenge like my direct family members who don't acknowledge their Blackness at all and have like their own sort of internalized like racism that they're dealing with. So the unofficial caste system basically throws in things like the word trigueño, which is what I'm considered, and that's like what Americans will call like yellow or whatever, where it's like you are obviously very Black, like you navigate experiences as a Black person, but back there they don't call you Black. They're just like, oh, she's trigueña or she's indiecita, which is also another way to call somebody who's like lighter skinned. So there's specific privileges to being called India or trigueña, where you still have like the more idealized like beauty features, so like the lighter skin, the good hair, the curves in all the right places or whatever, but you're not darker skin, which is like seen as like not beautiful. So navigating, wearing out natural hair. I obviously shaved, well, not obviously, but I shaved my head a few years ago, and I just kept shaving it just to like kind of wash my hands of like my relationship to hair and just like beauty in general. But when I was natural out there, people would just like literally grab my hair and I would like not know who they were. One person was like riding in a motorbike and like just grabbed it while it was like crazy. So there are those experiences where it's like you feel like targeted really, but then you come up here and obviously there are privileges in being light skinned in America. So I have the privilege of like sometimes navigating spaces where I'm like racially ambiguous and like nobody really knows like, oh, she's obviously black. Or if I'm in spaces with like other Afro-Latinos, they'll be like, oh, she's Afro-Latina. Like that's pretty obvious to us. So there's like a lot of trying to like connect my relationship as I navigate here and then as I navigate over there. It's been really weird. Also, I travel a lot with like my whiter family members, and like they always look at me like, this one is a little bit odd because you guys are like blonde with blue eyes or something. I feel like they played favorites between myself and my brother. My brother is like whiter. So my mom's side of the family, who would be considered, I guess, white, would like idolize him because he kind of looked more like them, and with me, it was kind of like an afterthought. So I felt more comfortable with my dad's side of the family, who was, you know, black. Just like they made me feel like I fit in, and I felt like I grew up with kind of like a complex, just like being with my mom and her family members and having to like fit into like these little boxes that they wanted to put me in, having to like force to like straighten my hair, getting relaxers when I was really young because they didn't know how to deal with my hair, and I don't even know what my hair looks like anymore. Like it's just, yeah, it's been kind of a journey, but I feel like I bottled it in for a long time until I got to like college, where I felt like, okay, now I can kind of explore like who I am exactly. And there were more conversations that people were having about race and racism, and I feel like coming from like the Caribbean diaspora or the Dominican diaspora, we're brought up with a lot of like really nasty internalized stuff that when we like say it out loud, it's just like you dropped a bomb. People are like, what the fuck do you mean by that? And it's like, I actually don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. But I really, really am fortunate to be in spaces at 17, 18, 19 where I can, you know, where I felt comfortable enough with the people that I was with to ask the questions, to have the conversations, and to like really dig deep and figure out where I fit in.
So if you were to share, like give a piece of advice to someone, like maybe even to your younger self, what would you share about knowing now that you're Afro-Latina?
Yeah, definitely the way that you look, it doesn't make you any less beautiful. The way that people see you, whether it's, you know, with their own internalized mess, that has very little to do with you than it does with sort of their own personal journeys. Always take things like one step at a time, and don't be afraid to ask questions and have these conversations, because if you don't have the conversations, then you're gonna continue this like cycle of just like internal bullshit that, you know, your kids will inherit, or just like you'll never break out of. And it's like this constant sort of like mental prison of like, what the fuck am I? And just like trying to fit into like this this like obviously unattainable standard of beauty, whether it's a straight nose or like fair skin or perfect hair. Yeah, it's just not ideal, and you don't have to like be that person